California Congressman Kevin Kiley was a member of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Steve Hilton is the leading candidate for governor in the state of California. It's great to have you both back on. Congressman, why can't this get done? I lived in the Central Valley for 4 years in Bakersfield, and I remember this debate happening way back then.
Yeah, well, the answer to your question, why, is political dysfunction. And you don't have to take my word for that. This is actually the term used by the early operator of the rail system. It was a French company that came in. They said, we can't build this here. It's too politically dysfunctional. So they went to Morocco and brought a high-speed train online in 2018. So we're now at the point where, you know, this whole thing, LA to San Francisco, was supposed to be done in 2020. This is what the voters were promised at a cost of $33 billion. And now we're saying, you know, what they're saying 2033, that's just, as you mentioned, for a tiny segment of it. For the entire thing, the New York Times found it's not even on track to be finished this century. And to the cost, you know, I just caught this in the clip you played. He said with the right optimization, it's $126 billion.
Right.
So if everything goes perfectly, so there's no reason to expect that. Everything's been a disaster so far.
Right.
It is the worst
it's gone so well for the last 20 years. Yeah, such a good point. Steve, if you're governor next year, what happens to this project?
Well, it's over. Kevin Kiley, my friend Kevin, has done the first part of the work by leading the effort to kill the federal funding. When I'm governor, we're going to kill the rest of it. As I like to joke in my speeches, I'm going to stop that thing in its tracks, except they haven't built any tracks, so I can't do that. But we're certainly not putting any more good money after bad. One last thing I'll say on the plan. This is what they laughably call a plan. The last section from Bakersfield to LA, you showed on the map just there. Do you know what they're actually saying that will be? A bus. A bus from Bakersfield to LA.
Geez.
And they're calling, basically, that'll take 2.5 hours in bad traffic.
Are you in the, Steve, you look like you're in the Central Valley right now. That looks like...
I am, exactly. I'm close to Fresno in the Sierra foothills, exactly.
All right. That's my old stomping ground out there. Congressman, here's another clip from that 60 Minutes. By the way, liberal 60 Minutes doing this. This is the kicker. They want money from the American people, not just California taxpayers, American taxpayers all over the country. Take a look.
Can this be done without help from the federal government?
This initial segment, we believe so. The ultimate 494 miles of building this out without the federal government's help will be challenging. There's no doubt about that.
Okay, so, Congressman, what did we learn last month? There is a multi-billion-dollar hospice fraud happening in Los Angeles. Why not just shut down the fake hospice centers and redirect that money?
Yeah, that's a great idea. I'd like to save the tens of billions of dollars in fraud and use it on something that will actually benefit Californians as opposed to this high-speed rail system. But, you know, that is an acknowledgement of reality we just heard, that this can't be built without the federal funding, that their entire $126 billion plan is reliant on federal funding. And as Steve just recognized, we have actually cut that funding off. I introduced a bill to do this, and it ended up getting passed as part of a larger measure with broad bipartisan support, making high-speed rail permanently ineligible for federal funding. So if Steve becomes governor and says that we're abandoning this project, that's simply just recognizing reality. And he's the only candidate that I've heard, or certainly one of the only ones in that race, who is acknowledging that reality, that this is not going to be built.
It could be when Steve becomes governor, by the way. Steve, I've got 30 seconds. So the Artemis II rocket that just circled the moon, they spent $4 billion to make that happen. $4 billion, and it went, what, 200,000 miles, and they can't build track 494 miles in California. Serious question, do the people of California even want this anymore?
No, nobody wants it. Even on its own terms, it was a complete joke, because they said it would take cars off the roads, but a tiny fraction, so it never made sense. What we actually need to do is build transportation infrastructure that help people. We need to, you know, the Central Valley, we need to widen the 99 so that the farmers can get their produce to the ports more easily.
Right.
Things like that actually help people every day. Families getting their kids to school, people getting to work. The roads is what we need to invest in. Of course, they hate that because of climate change. They don't want you driving. They want you to take a non-existent train instead.
Take the train that doesn't exist. Kevin Kiley, Congressman, good to have you on. Steve Hilton, we'll have you back. Thank you.